Hello and welcome to Transplant's Take on Sport. My name's Lewis Daniels and my guest today is kidney recipient and founder of the World Club Basketball Tournament, Eric Douglin. Eric discusses his passion for basketball and how he's used it to raise awareness and funds for organ donation and kidney charities. He also talks through the process of receiving a kidney from his wife, Mandy. Eric has set up an incredible tournament, so please stick around to hear more about it. If you're enjoying the podcast, please make sure you subscribe or follow wherever you normally get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. And if you'd like to follow the podcast on social media, all the links will be in the show notes. Eric Douglin, welcome to Transplant's Take on Sport.
Good evening, Lewis. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. I think you'll be a really interesting guest. Nice to hear your stories. Done some reading on you. We'll come on to the basketball tournament that you've set up later on in the podcast. So listeners, please do stick around for that. It's the World Club Basketball Tournament. It's a sports podcast, as I've said many times on here before. So we'll go right back to before your transplant. What were the sports that you were playing up until then?
At school, go all the way back to school. My twin brother and I, we used to play basketball all the time. We used to watch it. We lived in London. We lived right next to Crystal Palace Sports Centre, and there was a team, very successful team called the Crystal Palace Cinzano, who played at the Crystal Palace. So we would go up there and sneak in and watch them play. So that's what got us into basketball. Watching, the professionals, watching the guys who are the best do it. And then when we went to secondary school, that was it. We wanted to get into the team straight away. We didn't get in the team. We went to training. We didn't get in the team first time. Some guys who had never played got into the team. Slightly digressing, there was an American guy who had never played, but the teacher said, "You're American." He went, "Yeah, you're in the team." He'd never played before, so that annoyed me and my brother. But we went back again, got in the team, fortunately, and back in our school days, we just loved basketball. It's a very fast sport. It's a very everyone can get involved in it. And just going back to those Crystal Palace days, it was such an exciting sport because back then the Crystal Palace team used to have an international tournament called the World Invitational Club basketball tournament, and had teams from Russia, Australia. It was a fantastic tournament that was on between Christmas and New Year, and to go to Crystal Palace and see these teams from the overseas just playing, had Real Madrid there and what have you, and it was a great tournament, and that's why I fell in love with basketball. And football as well. I used to love football. I got put in the rugby team, but hated it. I got put on the wing because at the time I was quite fast, but I absolutely hated rugby. So my main two sports were football, where I was a goalkeeper, and basketball, and they just stuck with me, all the time, really.
The goalkeeper links in quite nice there with the basketball, all handwork. Did you think they lent themselves to each other?
They did later on, and I didn't really realise it until I started getting a bit more into basketball when I got older. I was had very quick hands. I could catch the ball quite well, but I didn't really realise it until later. But the reason I was a goalkeeper was I was very unfit, and we didn't have to run around as much. But it did lend itself later on because I'd defending, quick hands, and catching the ball and what have you, and foot speed as well. I was able to have that foot speed that goalkeepers have. That was something that was very advantageous to my basketball development, so to speak. It's the problem with basketball is it's a fantastic sport, but in the UK it's still growing. And one of my aims is, when I played it at school, and I said, to my mum, I played basketball, and she what's that? Not a lot of people knew what it was. So that was a bit of a awkward, but it's getting better, it's getting bigger. And I just love the sport. I think it's a great sport.
Do you think there's a chance of it reaching somewhere near the NBA level?
In the UK, no. Unfortunately, people have tried. but there won't be many countries in the world that'll get to the NBA level. I think Spain are very close, and Italy are very close. But what's happening now? Years ago, the NBA was a case of it had the best American players. They were fantastic players, but now the NBA have widened their net, and anyone who's really good in Europe or Africa to a degree, the NBA are taking those players. So all the best players are now playing in the NBA. So the NBA is now becoming more of um, a world market as opposed to an American market, and a lot of the American players are getting pushed out and are coming to Europe. So it's been a bit of a role reversal. Yeah, the NBA. That's why they've always called it, if a team wins the NBA championship, they always used to call it the World Championship because they were the best league in the world. I always sort of disputed that because I think, well, you're just, the Americans are very similar to the NFL championship the other day. They have met wings with world champions, but it's just played in America. But yeah, it won't, in England, basketball won't be as big as it is in a lot of the European countries. Unfortunately, we're way behind. They did a ranking the other day of the top 20 teams, and we weren't even in the top 20. You had teams like Slovenia, Georgia, Lithuania, Denmark, small countries who were way advanced of England. We've got 60 million people in the country, or Great Britain, I should say, and we can't get a really good team. We have the talent, we just haven't got the infrastructure, unfortunately. Um, and we haven't got the finances put into the sport yet, but we have some excellent talent playing. But I think basketball is seen as, one, an urban sport, and two, a sport played by minorities. So it doesn't really get that much focus. It's not, it's only basketball, we'll leave it there. And um, when we did get funding, it was in the London 2012 Olympics. I think they gave us something like 12 million. It might be a bit more than that, but they wanted a medal. They wanted, the Great Britain team to come out of the Olympics with a medal. There was no way we were going to come out with a medal. We were just happy to be there because you had teams like Spain, USA, Lithuania, I mentioned earlier, China. There were some fantastic teams in there, and we didn't even get out of our group. I don't think we won a group game, but from the Olympic standpoint, the Olympic board, they said, look, we've given you X amount of million pounds. We want you guys to come out with a medal. And they said, what we're going to do after that as well, we're going to have the Olympic legacy, where we're going to give you more money, we're going to have all these facilities, what have you. And when we didn't get out the group, the board looked at it and went, we're not going to give you guys any more money. You're not that good. So there's no point in us putting money into basketball when we can put it into sports we're going to medal in, like rowing, equestrian, badminton, athletics to a degree. So basketball had that big furore over London 2020, and then it just died down. And all the players who played in the Olympics were like, "Well, we're not going to get any money, so we're not going to, we're not going to ourselves out anymore." So unfortunately, it's a fantastic sport, but it will never. Well, I don't think it'll match the NBA for a good 15, 20 years, maybe more.
I think you could get that with a lot of certain sports where it seems to be there are certain countries that are really good, and the other ones maybe that are trying to get there, but a bit smaller. Football, cricket, my main sports that I've had over the years. Cricket, I think you get the test playing nations. There's not a lot of cricketing countries. Football there's a lot more, but
Yeah.
again, there's a big skill gap in those sort of sports.
Yeah, there is, and as you mentioned the cricket, I remember, I'm not old, I remember when the England cricket team were okay, but they went through fits and starts, but now they've got a really good setup, and I think that's because they're coming through the grassroots. They're getting a lot of players through the grassroots level, and they're obviously they won the World Cup, didn't they? I think a
Yeah,
couple of years ago.
2019.
Yeah, and that's because they've looked at what they need to do. They've looked at other countries, and they've realised where they're failing, and they put a lot of money into it. They could do the same with basketball, but I think the board are looking at it and they're just going, there's no point. But I think we've got so much talent in the UK. There's absolutely, we're bereft of talent, and a lot of our players, young players, go off to the States and play in college in the States and what have you. Um, and then they go off and play in Europe. So they won't come back to what we call the BBL, which is the British Basketball League. A lot of them won't come back. Although we've got a lot of, because of the pandemic, we have probably the best British talent in the BBL at the moment, because the guys can't really play overseas. Well, they can, but there's loads of excellent talent
Yeah.
in the BBL at the moment because they're not going overseas, which is great. But the fans can't go and watch the matches, so it's a bit of a pain.
I've seen it on TV. I've not noticed. Maybe it's just because I'm at home more, but I've seen the BBL on the TV listings a lot more.
Yes, yeah, which is great. Yes, Sky have got it. Sky put it on, but I think you have to pay like £20 a month or something. Sky have all these various different packages. So a lot of people are like, well, I'm not going to go and pay X amount to watch the BBL extra when I've already got the Sky packages, which isn't great. And then there's a BBL player where you can go and watch the BBL matches, but you have to pay $4.99 a match or something like that. I'm not too sure the exact amount. So a lot of fans are like, well, I'm not really going to watch that. But that's what you need to do. You need to, with basketball, you need to get the people who aren't into it, people who don't really go and watch it that often, because it's a great family sport, and that's the thing. And they're missing out on. I used to go and watch a team called, my local team called Crystal Palace, and I used to go and watch another team called London Lions, who played at Crystal Palace after that, after the demise of the Crystal Palace Cinzano team. And I've always advocated that they used to charge £20 a game, £20 each person, and they'd get 100 fans, maybe 200 fans. And I always used to say, why don't they just charge £10 a person, so you get twice the amount of people, and kids go free. So all the kids you go, and then they should go around all the schools and start, saying, look, free tickets come, and then the kids can't go without the parents. So the kids will go, look, I want to go and watch this basketball game where they're going to have cheerleaders and this and that, and they used to do that years ago, but they seem to have lost that community spirit a little bit. Yeah, if they just reduce the prices when we can get fans back in. But when I used to go and at Crystal Palace last year, because they had another team that played there called London City Royals, who were a new franchise, and they only lasted a year because they made lots of financial promises to their players they couldn't adhere to. So they said, look, we're going to pay you X amount and you X amount. And they had the best players, and they won the cup the first year, and I think they won 2 cups, and they were really successful. Second year, they didn't. They had to fold, which is a shame because it was on my doorstep. They had big crowds, but again, they charge too much, and there's no money in UK basketball at the moment, unfortunately. Whereas, cricket is great. Football, is there's always going to be money in football, but basketball, slightly laggy behind.
Hopefully, it does get more funding and gets onto that level, and just encourage more people to play.
Yeah,
There'll always be people who like basketball.
yeah. It's the second I think it's the second most played team sport by under 16s in the UK. So it's played by loads and loads of kids all around the UK. But it's just when they get to 16, 17, there aren't many clubs, or it's too expensive to play because you go into sports halls, and the sports halls when we used to play were about £40 an hour. So you're playing for 2 hours, that's £80, and then you've got to pay referees. A game when I had my team, the Bexhill Giants, a game would cost us per night, by paying the sports hall, the referees. You needed 2 referees, the table officials. It was costing about £150 a night, and then you played sometimes 2 games a week. It's £300 for an amateur team. But when I played football, I was paying £2.50 subs per game, or £5 subs a game, and it just became too expensive. So if you're an under 16 kid and you want to play this sport, your parents have to fork out a lot of money. And then you're traveling all over the place, and it's a midweek sport as well. So the kids are at school, they go home, then they've got to play a midweek game, and they're playing all around the place and getting back quite late. So it's a very time consuming sport. But as I said, my personal opinion, it's one of the best sports in the world. That's, from my perspective, because I enjoy it so much. But it's quite expensive.
We'll come on to the Bexhill Giants, as you mentioned there.
Yeah.
You sent me some notes beforehand talking about the sports you played leading up to now. You set up the Bexhill Giants in 1999.
Yep.
What made you want to set the team up?
I've got three three sons, and a daughter. And at the time, my eldest son was about 12. He started playing, and he followed in my footsteps to a degree, a lot better than me. And he started playing the sport. But the team he played for was about 6-7 miles away, so we were travelling all the way backwards and forwards. But it was an excellent team called 1066 Conquerors, run by a really, really nice guy. And then the guy who was running it, and he ran the under 12s team, the under 14s team. I think it was under 18 and a men's team. He was running it all by himself. And he said, look, he had a parents' meeting one day, and he had all the parents there and everything, and he said, right, I can't do it all by myself. He said, I need some help from the parents. Who's going to help? And no parents put their hand up. So I just put my hand up and said, look, I'll help. And that's how I first initially got into it with my eldest son. So we started playing for this other team, 1066 Conquerors, but it was quite a way away, to say about 6-7 miles away. And this is when we lived in Sussex, and there were no buses or what have you. So I decided, after a couple of years' time, just to set my own team up, which was basically set up from. We used to go to a youth club, and I just invited some kids down just to play, have some fun. And the first week we had 3 kids, and then the following week we had about 15, and it just grew from there. And from that time, the Bexhill Giants grew, and we had a girls' team where my daughter played. I had a junior team where my 2 younger boys played, and an under 18s where my eldest son played. And it was I enjoyed it, and I've got some other coaches in and what have you. But I realised that with sport and with basketball, I wanted to do something a bit more than just the guys going out and playing and winning or losing. We weren't very good initially. So we did things whereby we went off and we played the Welsh national team, or we went out and we played went out to Mallorca one year, and we played, took the guys all out to Mallorca, and we played 3 teams out there in these massive, beautiful stadiums, and we had TV crews following us because I don't know why. And we went to Holland and we played in this tournament called the World Youth Games, where we got to the semi-finals. And I felt basketball was, although it's a really good sport, it was a vehicle to help educate a lot of the young guys and help put them in the right direction, and give them an input into something they've never seen. So a lot of the guys had never ever travelled. A lot of the young guys, when we went to Mallorca, there were a lot of the guys were like 17, 18, and quite a few of them have never ever been abroad. So that was a really good experience. So they can go and play basketball, but have a look at another country, another culture. And it was also very eye opening to see how other countries invest in their sports. Um, we played one team, I think it's called Alcudia, I think it was, I can't think what they were called, and it was really good because I got coaches we had coaches that took us to the games and what have you, and because we stayed in a tourist hotel, a lot of the tourists were saying, well, where are you going? A lot of the English tourists, what are you doing? We said, we're a basketball team, so can we come and watch the games? So they would come with us. And we went into this one venue, and we were going up this hill into these mountains, and literally there were sheep and what have you around, and we thought, where are we going? And we turned up at this fantastic purpose-built sports centre. It was absolutely fantastic, and it was an eye-opener to see the venues they've got out there, and all the local community came out to support the kids. And their coach was saying, he said, if your child plays for this team and you work for a company, or if you own a company, you have to sort of get that company to invest in this team because it's for the community. And all of the community were there, the mayor was there, and they really get behind their sports out in a lot of these other countries where, we didn't really do that in the UK. So it was quite an eye-opener to see how the local community were. All the various teams were, we played 3 teams out there, and everyone, the community were there. They made it a bit of a festival. They welcomed us, and it was a really good experience for the young lads. So, my my thought process was let's make this more than just a basketball team where we go out and play. Let's make it an experience where the guys can develop and learn and grow as people and individuals. And it's really good to see a lot of the players now. They're all grown men with their own kids and they're all doing well. And we still, communicate. And they said, remember that time we did that? And remember that time we went to Holland and we had a great time. And, some of them are teachers and they're policemen and what have you, or they've got their own businesses. So it's really, I'm quite pleased I was integral in their development as people, into young adults and now into middle-aged men now, they're all 30s. So yeah, and that's why I started the Bexley Giants. I've always had this sort of thought process that sport is bigger than just sport to a degree.
Testament to you for having the initiative and wanting to take this team abroad, investing your time and effort into it, and giving them life experiences that they may otherwise not have had.
Yeah, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it.
So with the team, for anyone who might be interested in starting a team or has a team themselves, or even just interested, what's the process behind creating a new team from scratch and joining a league?
Um, we have the regulators of the basketball in the UK is obviously Basketball England, and it was just a case of filling in an application form to actually you've got Basketball England who govern everything, and then all the regions are split. So at the time I was in Sussex, and we just joined the Sussex League, and so we just went in there. We said I want to put an under 14 team, under 18 team, so we just joined the Sussex League. We had to have a venue, we had to have qualified coaches, so I had to get qualifications, and a few other guys had to get qualifications as well. And that was it really. We had to pay an entry fee, and then you have to pay fees for each individual player and insurance for each individual player. And again, that's quite costly because you have to pay all of this stuff before you join the league, so you're not too sure what players you're going to have. So a lot of the funding comes out of your own pocket, which I didn't initially mind, but and a lot of the players, again, it's not about making money or anything at all. A lot of the players can afford it, so I paid a lot of the guys. I paid their fees. I'm not going to nullify someone because they can't afford to play if they want to play. So I used to pay for a lot of the guys. Pay for guys to go on these tours to Holland and Mallorca and what have you, because I didn't want them to miss out on the experience. But yeah, you just join the local league, and then you become a member of Basketball England. But you have to have coaches and various people who can do the score table and what have you, and a venue. But it's quite straightforward, actually. It's quite a straightforward process.
You mentioned the coaching, and it's lead us nicely into the transplant process. Personally, I became a cricket coach about 6 months before my transplant happened. Did the coaching become more important for you the closer you got to your transplant, in the sense that, for me anyway, it was sort of a feeling of, I love playing sport, love being involved, but there was sort of that slight feeling at the back of my mind thinking, am I going to be able to do this to the best that I could before? And am I going to have the chance to play properly again? But we still want to stay involved. So I became a coach to hold on to that and still give myself a chance to stay involved afterwards.
Yeah.
Was it similar for you?
Yeah, very much so. Because I was a lot older. I think I was 40. Blimey. 46 was it when I had my transplant, but I was ill for quite a while. The kidney disease is set in my I think it's about 38 when it set in, and they said look, it's degenerative. Yeah, so it was about sort of 8 years between being diagnosed and having a transplant. So I was still playing, but when I was playing, I didn't realize at the time I was getting a little more tired. And I thought I was really good sort of thing at the time, playing with all these young guys. But I was getting a lot more tired and that, so I decided to just become a coach. Quite a few times I did consider saying, look, this I'm getting too tired to call it a day. But when you've got like 25, 30 people who rely on you, so yeah, the coaching became more important to me. The closer I got to my transplant, and when they did say I needed a transplant, I was still involved in the game. I was still involved, but only from a coaching aspect. I didn't play, one, because I was getting older. Two, a lot of the guys were a lot better than me, and I didn't want to take up anyone's spot really. So the coaching aspect and the organising and the hosting aspect, which we'll probably touch on later on when getting the international teams over, that became more important to me than actually playing, because I knew my time was up really.
It's a good way to stay involved, and I found it rewarding, actually really enjoyable.
Yeah, it was at the time when I pretty jumping forward a little bit, when I had my transplant. I used to live in Sussex, but when I had my transplant, I was travelling to and from work every day from Sussex to London. It was a 2-hour journey each way. So what I used to, and then when I moved up here, I was still travelling back to Sussex for games. So I'd finish work, get on a train, go all the way to Sussex, meet the guys at a train station, go to the game, finish the game, go back to the train station, come all the way back to London, to Bromley, and not get back till midnight. And it just became a toll. And so I got another coach in. There was another guy called Steve Judd, who was a fantastic guy. He started to take over the coaching, and I became more of a remote coach. I would organise all the players, I would organise the fixtures and the finances and what have you, to make sure, that we had a team, that we had a venue. I would liaise with the other team to make sure everything was all okay. But Steve was then taking the team to games and coaching them. So I became more remote the more degenerative my condition got, because it was just too much travelling to London and back for the games. And in his, to be a fair, in his fairness, Steve was a better coach to me as well, because we got to, we came second in the league and we got to cup finals and stuff, and I was like, well, you guys didn't do that when I was there. What's all that about? So yeah, so the more tired and iller I got, although I didn't know it at the time. You probably don't know yourself. You think you're okay, but it's only when you get the transplant you suddenly go, hold on a minute, I was really ill.
Absolutely.
I took, I did travel to games and what have you. I would just sort of get people to text me the scores at the end of each quarter and what have you. So, which was a shame. I did miss the interaction of being at the game and cheering and shouting. I did go to some games, but it just got a bit too much sometimes.
So going on to your transplant process, we'll go right back to the start. You said you first started to have kidney problems in your 30s.
Yeah.
When did you first find out? What was the trigger or the point where you realised?
Well, I started, for some reason, started getting really bad headaches. And I didn't know why. I just had these blinding headaches and nausea, and it was like vertigo. And I didn't know what was going on for quite a while. I just, and then one day I was at my old company, and I was in the office, and I just had this almighty blinding headache, and felt really ill. And I went home, and the ambulance man came out. I was with my ex-wife at the time, and she called an ambulance, and they came out, and they checked they said, no, he's only got a headache, but then they checked my blood pressure, and it was sky high, and they said, we're taking you in to hospital, and they did loads of tests, and then they found I had protein in my urine, and that was the first. And I didn't know what that meant. They just, the doctor just said, you got protein in your urine, you're leaking protein. We'll keep an eye on it, because at that time it was very low, the milligrams I was losing. And that was the first indication back in, oh God, bloody hell, about 2004, 2005. So, I didn't think much of it. And then they, so when I saw a renal surgeon, a really nice guy called Dr. Igo, and he said to me, he said, right, what would do? I'd go and see him every 3 months. And it hadn't set in then. What was going on. And he said, look, you got proteinuria, let's take blood test, check your urine. And every time I went and saw him, he said, you're leaking more you're leaking more protein into your urine. And it's only one time I went and saw him, he said, look, you may need a kidney transplant. And when he said that, it still didn't register. I thought, people like me don't get kidney transplants. You're not talking to me, you're talking to someone else. That doesn't relate to me. And I kept on going back to him. And he kept saying, look, you're still leaking loads and loads of protein. There's probably going to be a chance you're going to need a kidney transplant. And I had loads of medication and what have you to try and slow it down. And then I moved to London. My ex-wife and I separated. I moved to London, and I had to go to Guy's Hospital, transferred to Guy's Hospital. The doctor there, Dr. Patterson, he said, that was about 2000, so that's 2006, 2007, and I moved to London in about 2000 and blimey, must have been about 2010. Maybe less, maybe more. Yeah, 2010, 2012, and the condition had just got degeneratively worse, and that's when I went and saw. I was going to see the doctor, and he just said to me, "You're going to need a kidney in a year." And that was 2010. Yeah, it was 2010. No,
Big news to
2009.
take.
Sorry. Yeah, 2009. Yeah, he said you're going to need a kidney in a year, and again, it didn't resonate because I said, you're not talking to me. I don't need a kidney. I'm fine. And he said, you're going to need one, yeah, within a year because my kidney function had got down to about, I think it was about 3%. But what I didn't know that when with um, people of a BME race, black and Asian, what have you, the kidney function can get down to about 1%, and it can still function okay, and you don't need a transplant or dialysis. Whereas in white people, European people, I think the kidney function can get down to about 4%, and they need dialysis. But I didn't know that, and he said to me, your kidney function down to about 1%.
Do you know why that is?
I don't know.
Because mine was down to 8 when I had my transplant, and I
Yeah,
was on the verge of dialysis.
yeah, yeah. It
And you're
was
3.
yeah. Mine got really down, and he said, you're not going to need it now. He said down to about 1%, 2%. I was like, really? I don't know why that is. No one's ever sort of given me a medical reason for that, so I probably might need to do a bit of a investigation into that. Really.
If anyone does know what that is, then please get in touch on social media or email transplanttakeonsport@gmail.com. I'm curious to find out now.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. And yeah, so he said you need a kidney, and I was with my new partner at the time, and I came home from the hospital, and she said, "You okay?" I went, yeah, because I never. One thing about men, you're probably very similar to me. We don't say anything's wrong. We go, "Yeah, it's fine, not a problem." And I was like, "Yeah, it's fine, not a problem." Yeah, yeah, yeah. And she goes, "What did he say?" And I went, "He said I need a kidney." Very sort of matter of fact, and she just went, "Oh, Mandy, my partner, my wife, Mandy, said I'll do it." She was like, "Yeah, I'll do it," and I didn't want her to do it because he had explained to me what she would have to do. You have to have dyes inserted in you and all the various invasive procedures and what have you, and I didn't want her to do it. And I said no. I said I'd rather have dialysis or a kidney from someone who died than having her go through that. And I think initially when I said that, it did hurt her because there she's trying to save my life, and I'm going, nope, I don't want your help, and that did hurt her quite a lot. So we had a few sort of arguments about it. I was adamant that she wasn't going to do it, and plus she had to speak. She's got family as well, so she spoke to her mum, her sister, and what have you, and friends, and again they didn't really want her to do it because she's putting herself in a position to be ill. Um, and so but she agreed to it, and fortunately, and January the 15th 2010 we went and had the transplant, and yeah, everything was all okay, apart from the fact after the transplant, which filled me with total guilt, is that Mandy had an infection in her wound, and it was yeah, she was quite ill, and I felt so guilty after that. I thought, look, I've done that to you, and but again, what you may would have found after you had your transplant, I didn't realize how ill I was.
Absolutely,
Um,
yeah.
and it was only when I had the transplant I was like, bloody hell, I feel I feel really good,
Yeah.
um, and my mum, bless her, they said, do not come and see the person, do not come and see them after they've had the transplant. Leave it a couple of days because they're going to be ill. But my mum, she was 70 odd at the time. She didn't listen to anyone, and she came, and I was in intensive care because I think because the kidney Mandy gave me, it's still, every time I go to hospital now, they say that kidney's fantastic. It's the best part of you. That kidney's still doing well. It's really strong. Apparently, when I had Mandy's kidney, because it was so strong, apparently it released my heart released enzymes that it appeared like I had a heart attack. So I was in intensive care. And when my mum came and saw me, and I had, and like you obviously know, I had tubes and wires hanging out of me and bleeping machines. And my mum looked at me, and because she saw Mandy first, and Mandy came down with her. Um, and my mum looked at me and she went, "Eric, that is the best I've seen you look for ages. Mandy, you'll get better." And I always remember that. I always remember those words, thinking, "I'm lying in intensive care with wires and tubes and everything."
I expected because I've read other people's stories before mine. I expected the intensive care and all the tubes and wires. I mean, I had sort of tubes coming out, but I didn't. There was no intensive care. I was recovery back to the ward, and I didn't have. Listeners will have to visualize this. You see a lot of people photos after transplant. They've got apologies if you're squeamish. Um, they've got like a tube in the neck.
Yeah, yeah, I had that. Yeah.
I didn't have any of that. I'm
Oh,
not sure why.
yeah. I've still got the scar to prove it. Yeah, I had the line in my neck, and I think I had oxygen as well, and yeah, various bits, and obviously you had was it the cannulas? That's it, the cannulas in your
Yeah,
hand, and all the rest of it. Yeah, I had all of that, and yeah, my mum just looked at me and said, "Eric, that's the best you look for ages." Because what I didn't know, because my kidney was failing and I was getting worse and iller, the colour had drained out of my skin. I looked very grey, but I hadn't, because it had been going on for years and years and years, and I had these really dark bags under my eyes. And when I look back at photographs now, I can see it, but at the time I hadn't noticed it. So when my mum saw me, I had a bit more colour and I looked a bit more lively and what have you. So, but yes, only when I look back now and I think, bloody, hell, I did look really ill, because it's just been a gradual decline over a number of years. Um, yeah, so things are really really good now. It's 11 years on, celebrated 11 years. Yeah, January the 15th, which was
congratulations.
thank you very much, which was great. Although I was in hospital then for the for the other thing. Um, and what I find really hard is I try to, I can't thank Mandy enough, and I try and do that, and she just goes, anyone would have done it. She always says this to me, and it drives me mad a little bit. She goes, anyone would have done it, and I said to her, no, but they won't. A lot of people, loads and loads of people wouldn't do what you've done, and like many donors, they're quite matter of fact. They're just like, well, anyone would have done it, but they don't. And I'm not criticizing anyone. People have got their own choices, um, and they have their own reasons for not doing things. Um, but I don't think I can ever show my gratitude, and that's where I always feel a bit guilty. I can't really say, we before it happened. I said, "What do you want?" What do you want? She just went, "I want a packet of pork scratchings." So and it was, so we have this thing every anniversary. We do a packet of pork scratchings just for a laugh. But yeah, I just feel that I can never sort of thank her enough, really, and my family are the same. What can what can you say to someone who's basically saved your life, sort of thing?
It is difficult to put into words. I think
Yeah,
a lot of people I've spoken to feel the same. Yeah, it's very difficult to articulate how you feel, because it is not it's something that not a lot of people have to go through. Well, family member or the unfortunate passing of somebody else
mm,
coming in to save your own life, save your life. It is. If you were told that when you were younger, it is a bizarre circumstance to be in.
yeah, yeah. It is, and what's even stranger, the that we were, because Mandy's white and I'm black, and the match we had, they said it was like a familial match, like we were sort of family, which is very strange. I think we were 2.2, a 2-2 match or something, which was an extra match. Um, so we've broken down some myths, and that's why we sort of do some awareness, we do some talks and what have you, because I think a lot of people didn't think that could actually happen. That you could have two people of different ethnicities, um, donating. So we've sort of broken down that barrier to a degree, and we do talk about it quite a lot. We do various newsletters or what have you, but that was something that was quite a surprise, because that's why. And again, when Mandy said she was going to donate, and I said, well, it's not going to happen anyway. It won't happen. You won't be able to donate to me. Um, then when they did the test, and they said she was well, they did all the testing, and they called Mandy, and they told her, I was, because we worked for the same company at the time, and I was at my desk, and she came running up into the office, smiling and beaming, and she went, "We're a match, we're a match." And when she told me that, I was quite disappointed because I didn't want her to be a match. It sounds strange, and I was like, "Ugh." But yeah, so that was really weird. They said you're a perfect match, and it's all gone fine. So yeah, 11 years later, still it's taken a licking and it's still ticking. Fortunately,
I think that'll be encouraging for anyone else in your position that
yeah,
that can happen. You can get a match. Sorry
yeah.
to go back, if you don't mind me asking, what was the cause of your kidney failure?
Well, they called it sclerosis of the kidney. So where the kidney has got loads of little channels in there, all those and the channels take the toxins away. Um, the channels had furred up apparently. So, and what was happening, instead of taking the toxins away, it was taking the proteins. Every time I was using the loo, the protein was coming out of my body and going in my urine. So all the goodness was going out of my body basically, and that was due to the furring up of the kidneys. And they don't know why it happened. They can't put their finger. They said, I said because I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I played sport virtually all my life. Kept myself relatively fit, and I felt quite, when they said, I said, what, why has it happened to me? And they said, sometimes your body just attacks itself. And I felt quite angry. I'm not going to lie, I did feel quite angry when that happened because, and I was told that because you walk down the road and you see someone sort of smoking and eating a McDonald's and, overweight or what have you. And I would feel quite angry for a long time. I thought, well, why am I going through this when and I shouldn't have felt this way. I don't now, but at the time it was, I felt, why am I being penalised? But yeah, they just said it's throwing up of the kidneys, and they don't know why. Um, I've got a twin brother who lives in Canada now, and he has got quite a similar condition, but his isn't as advanced as mine. But they don't. It's not hereditary because no one else in my family. It's just me and my twin brother have got this. So, but yeah, his has been managed fortunately by medication.
That's good. It's interesting saying it's not passed through the family because I'm the only one in my family that we know of. Obviously, my mum's been tested for donation. My dad was tested. My uncle was tested. And my sister got tested just to make sure she didn't have it. And nobody else has got it.
Yeah, it's really weird, isn't it?
And again, like you, I'm a non-drinker, non-smoker, sport all the time,
Yeah.
athletic. And yeah, it's strange to think. I read in your story that you got married a year after your transplant to Mandy.
Yes, I did.
Did the transplant and the fact that she donated make your wedding even more special?
It did. Because my twin brother came over from Canada. It was a really nice day. All my family were there, and my children were there, and what have you. Um, and I had this speech. I made this really nice speech, and it's meant to be joking, it's meant to be funny. And I thought, yeah, me and my twin brother worked it the night before. We said, yeah, well, we're giving like a comedy duo, we are, Um, and I got up to do the speech, and I just looked out at everyone, and I just cried. I literally just blubbed like a baby. And I think that's when it really dawned on me that I might not have been there. Um, and that really sort of hit home. It, really, really did. I'm getting a bit emotional about it now. And it's just this, yeah, and seeing Mandy sitting there and her family and everyone, it really, really did just, I just stood up and now I was ready to deliver my great funny speech. I just looked at all these faces looking at me, and that was it. I just broke down and just cried my eyes out, and I said, "I'm really sorry. I'm just glad everyone's here, and I'm alive to see it." And Mandy got up and she just carried on and did her little funny speech and got laughed. People laughed at her, and they didn't laugh at me. Well, they laughed at me, probably crying. Um, but yeah, it really made it such an emotional day, emotional occasion. Um, you know, yeah, and we've made lots of friends since then as well. On the back of our journey, which is all the better. But yeah, that was such a very emotional. emotional day. So I'm still friends with a lot of guys I went to school with when I was like 13 and 14 when we were really young, and seeing all those guys there, and it was very emotional and lovely day. In fact, that my twin brother came over from Canada as well, as my best man, was great, and that was what made it even more special as well.
So it's so nice to hear. And does Mandy now, with donating your kidney, she got an instant win in any disagreements now?
All the time. Um, all the time she goes, "I gave you a kidney," I think one of the things I said actually earlier when I said, I'll make when you give me the kidney, I'll buy you a bag of pork scratchings, and I'll also make the tea all the time. So whenever she wants a cup of tea, she just sits there and looks at me, and yeah, I have to get up and make the tea, which is a very small price to pay, really.
Oh yeah,
Very small price
absolutely.
to pay.
We'll come on for the transplant. We'll come on to after that now and sporting achievements afterwards. He said you stopped playing sport after your transplant.
Yes.
Was it a difficult decision?
No, I was in my 40s. Excuse me. I was getting to my 40s. When I was diagnosed with kidney disease, I knew I was in my late 30s and I knew my time was up. I think you can sometimes tell the knees were getting a little bit painful after games. So I once I had the transplant, I still wanted to be in the game. So I think the first thing I did, I had the transplant in the January, and I held a tournament in, I think it was about the May time when I was feeling a lot better. I held the first one of the first tournaments, and it was in the Kidney Research UK, and it was they set loads of banners down and what have you, and we raised lots of money, and it was then that I thought that's the direction I want to take in going into a bit of hosting and doing events, because I knew my playing days were over. Really, and it's like everyone, you get to a certain stage and you think that's it. And they also said to me, I don't know if it's been said to you, they said that I should give up sport because if I get hit in the kidney, I could damage it, and that always playing at the back of my mind as well.
I haven't had that. I've just been
Yeah,
told to wear extra protection with
yeah,
with cricket balls.
I was told, yeah, and you said, what sport do you play? I said I play, basketball, and they said, well, we suggest you sort of don't really play it because if you get hit in the kidney, it could damage it. It may well be they just said that because I was quite an old person. But yeah, so that was always at the back of my mind. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I slowed it down. I still used to go to the park and play with my sons and what have you. We used to go. There's a park around the corner we always used to go into and shoot around and what have you. But playing it officially in a team, no, this. Yeah, no, and I knew, as I said before, I knew my time was up, really.
So the hosting, which you have gone on to do, you now host. You founded and you host the World Club Basketball Tournament, which I read is the UK's #1 international basketball tournament.
Yeah, it's the UK's only international basketball tournament now. Um, yeah, that came about basically, yeah, with the Bexhill Giants, as I mentioned earlier, how I wanted to do something outside of the box and have more of um, the experience. And what better experience is there than playing against international competition on your doorstep, where your family can come and see you play. So there was a team called USA Select who used to come round every year. They used to come round to the UK, and basically the premise of USA Select were they came over to the UK and they used to go to Holland, I think, and Norway with a group of about 20, 30 players, and they used to play exhibition games with the premise that some of these guys were going to get picked up by these teams in Europe and they're going to get professional contracts. I think as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, whereby a lot of the European teams now they're getting USA players, and USA players are getting a bit nudged out. So, this USA Select organisation, they come out every September, and they spend 3 weeks in Europe, and they play games virtually every single day, and to showcase the players, so the players can get contracts. And I just saw, and they play all the professional teams, all the BBL teams, Newcastle Eagles, Leicester Riders, London Lions, what have you. Um, And I saw that. I thought, well, that's quite interesting. I said, I wonder if they'd be up for playing my little local team, Bexhill Giants. So they probably won't, but I'll email them. So I emailed their director, really nice guy called Sean Kilmartin. I said, look, I've seen you guys are coming to the UK in September. Would you fancy playing my team in an exhibition? And he said, yep, we're up for it. And I was like, bloody hell. So they came over and we had an exhibition game with them, which was really really good in Hastings. Had loads of fans out, advertised on social media, and had loads of fans because people in Hastings had never seen a USA team, and these guys were very very talented. They all played at top universities and what have you. And they'd never seen a team like that, and they brought two teams over to Hastings. And they played my team, Bexhill Giants, absolutely annihilated us, which was unexpected. But it was a really good occasion. We had a DJ there, we had a commentator. I wanted to make it such a really good experience. And then they really enjoyed themselves as well. And then I think the year after that we had another team who had seen what USA Select had done, a team from Canada. They were coming over to the UK, and they were run by a guy called Sean Laux, Albany ABA Toronto Knights. And again, I just sort of contacted them. Would you want to come and play my team? And they said, yep. So they came over, played in a tournament that I organised, a 14 tournament in Bexhill, which was good fun. And there was another team called Lake Michigan Admirals. And this is going back and blimey, it's like 2000 and about 2011, 12, 13 time. And there was another team called Lake Michigan Admirals who were coming over, and they had a guy called Bob Wenger in their team, and Bob Wenger is the tallest professional athlete. He was 7'9", I think he is.
It's huge.
Yeah, absolutely giant. And Bob came over. They came over, and they said they actually contacted me and said, look, we've seen what you've done with the Canadian team and USA Select. Can we come over and play? So we had organised another tournament with those guys and some other UK teams. And then the following year, they all wanted to come back, and it's proving too expensive. I thought, how can I host all these teams? It's too hard to organise and get and fit it all in the calendar. So I decided to. I thought it was around about Christmas time, and I thought, what can I do? And I just came to my head. I thought, I'll organise a tournament, invite those teams in the tournament, and see if there's any UK teams that want to get involved as well. So I came up with this concept, and it took me back to the Crystal Palace days when I mentioned earlier with the tournament my brother and I used to go and watch with all the international teams. I thought I'll try and organise a tournament similar to that.
Yeah.
So I came up with the concept of the World Club Basketball Tournament, and invited all those teams, invited loads and loads of teams from around the world just via social media. Put a poster up and said, international tournament in September. Who wants to get involved? And that's how it started. Again, it was hosted in Hastings, and there was some hotels locally that we got the guys in. Got some sponsorship from various clothing apparel companies, and it took a lot of organising, very stressful. Trying to get teams from, I had a team from representing the Philippines and USA, the USA and Germany, and it's very rewarding, very stressful on the day. When it's over, it's a massive sigh of relief. But the whole point of it was to raise funds and awareness for kidney research as well, and other kidney organisations. So I made sure I had kidney banners, and before the tournament starts, I tell them my story. I get all the players and I tell them my story, and I say, look, I had a kidney transplant, and explain it. And we have the main focus is to try and get the UK teams to sign on to the organ donation register. So we have lots of banners and we have lots of leaflets and what have you there. So when I share my story, it's they're hearing a personal story. Because I think if I hadn't been through it, they'll just go, "Oh, he's talking rubbish." But I can tell them my story. So, and fortunately, we've had people have put money into it, and they've sponsored us, and guys have gone away and taken the organ donation register, and they've signed up, and that is the main. I always advocated that if I get one guy signing up to be an organ transplant donor, it's a success. and a lot of guys signed up
So good to
to
hear.
to be organ donation, or to go on the organ donation register, and even I do the blood, um, uh, blood donor as well, because I think when you get it down to a granular personal story, and guys are standing there looking at me, thinking this guy's just organised a tournament and he's had a kidney transplant. His wife standing next to him, who gave him the kidney. You know, let's give something back.
Powerful.
Yeah, and I think that's where it hits home. Let's give something back to this guy who's organised all this lot. What's it going to hurt? So yeah, and it's I had the first year I had someone came down, another kidney transplant patient came down. Can't think of his name now. And he gave his story, which was really powerful as well. And then I had Becky from the kidney transplant on one of the fundraisers. She came down and she stayed all day. And it was really, really good. It's really good. And she just went around talking to all the players and telling them what she does and sharing my story. And it's really, really good. Because it's more than basketball. It's the tournament is one element. It's a very small element, but it's all about having fun. Guys meeting each other from around the world. A lot of guys have made friends from around the world, but it's about organ donation. That's the main crux of it. And showing people that once you've had a transplant, it's not the end of your life. Because a lot of people think, oh, he's had a transplant, he should be sitting in a corner on a wheelchair or what have you. But I'm still standing, I'm still fighting, I'm still there. And I think once people see that, and it's also sharing the story that although I've had a kidney transplant, I may need another one. My kids may need one. People in their family may need one. So I do say that in my sort of opening sort of speech. It's about anyone in your family may needed an organ donation. I didn't know I needed one, so it's all about you guys can do your part by signing on to the organ donation register, and also the spectators. There's lots of spectators there as well, and we have a very good media team who do videos and what have you, and they're all out there on social media, so people can still look at those now retrospectively and go, you know what, I'm going to join. I'm going to become an organ donor. So it's all about leaving a footprint. But I felt that also because I had a kidney and I was grateful to be alive, I needed to give something back. That was my responsibility. I couldn't just go, I've had my kidney, great, I'm off. What can I use? Basketball is a vehicle for me, so I'm going to use that vehicle to spread the word.
It's amazing what you're doing as well. It looks like such a good event, and as you said, you're raising awareness for organ donation, and it's working. You're finding people to sign up to the register. You sharing your story. People are being impacted and touched by it. Do you know how much you've raised for the kidney charities?
It's over the years. Oh, blimey! It's Kidney Research UK. I think it's about £3,000
That's
over the
incredible.
years.
Well done.
Yeah, yeah. I wish it was more. Unfortunately, one of the downsides of hosting this event, and it's an argument I have quite often with the venue and sort of certain the councils, what have you. Can you reduce the price for us because it's for charity? Now a little bit like no, and it's a bit of an argument I have. Slightly digressing when I say to them that we're bringing revenue into the town. I'm bringing 150 players from around the world to the town. You've got these videos. They all go to the restaurants. What can you give us back? And sometimes they're a little bit, they have given us some discount, but I would like to get a bit more so more money can go into the charity aspect of it. Ideally, I would, again, the strange thing is I was talking to a guy who runs a tournament in Greece, who I partnered with, and he said in Greece they give the venue for free. He said, you're bringing tourism to the town. All the restaurants are going to be used, so the venue is free of charge. And in England, we've got to get that mentality. I think we're still a little bit behind. The English mentality sometimes is we've got to get that money in. If we and I totally understand they've got targets to achieve and what have you, but the flip side of it is if they give us the venue at a reduced rate or what have you, they get all the food that they get, it gets sold out. they sell everything out, all the food gets sold out, and so they're making that money back by having all the spectators and the players. That's just my little gripe. That if I wasn't, if the outgoings weren't as high, we'd have more money for the charity we're trying to raise for. So that's just my little moan.
Long may the fundraising continue. Long may the tournament continue.
Thank you.
And isolating the tournament on its own, the basketball on its own,
Yeah.
it sounds like quite a high standard. Do you get some of the big names in basketball coming?
Yeah, we've had once a lot of the not the well, we've had a lot of the BBL players, top guys who play in the British Basketball League, who actually play. Some guys who are playing, for London Lions and top teams like that. And we had a guy who played in the NBA for Washington Wizards. Played 2 years. He played for the Toronto Knights. What's his name now? Oh, I can't remember his name. Jay. Can't remember his second name now. He played for he played in the summer league for the Washington Wizards, and then he came and played in the tournament. We've had guys in the BBL. We've had Sam Tolawose, he was a Nigerian international. We've some of the teams we had a team last year called the Kings of Congo, and they're a French team of Congolese descent, and they play in all the top tournaments around the world. There's a massive tournament which is played in front of the Eiffel Tower called Key 54, and they played in that, and they have Michael Jordan and LeBron James, all these guys go to that tournament to watch it, and and the Kings of Congo played in that tournament, and they came and played in my tournament last year, and they contacted me and said, "Look, we've seen your tournament, we want to play," and they came down, and it was great to have that level of talent there. Other teams, teams from the Congo, from Denmark. The team who won it last year were a team called Wolfpack of Denmark. Their team plays in the Division 1 of the Danish league, but last year they set the development team, the under 23 side. And I saw when they walked in, I saw these young lads. I thought, you guys are going to get absolutely hammered. Because they were quite small, quite slight. They went and won it because the European style of basketball is very fundamental, where they know their roles and know their drills. Whereas the Americans are very athletic. They're very fundamental as well, but the American team is very athletic. The Wolfpack Denmark side played a team called Kitsap Admirals in the first round of the group games, and Kitsap Admirals absolutely annihilated them in the first game, and both teams got through to the final. And the Wolfpack had learned from that first game, and they annihilated Kitsap Admirals in the final, which was an eye opener. But it was just how they learned and developed, and they were very well coached and very well organised. But the teams we've had teams, Congo, Philippines, America, have lots and lots of American teams come over. New York with New York Court Kings. 2018 we had a team called Las Vegas Unknown who came over, and I think with the American teams, although I'd say this quite a lot, the American teams, I think they're coming over to showcase their skills still and try and get the professional contracts.
Right.
Although I do say, look, the coaches are there. There are some coaches who come down and watch, and they watch the videos, but I don't sell it as an exposure event, because I don't want these guys coming over, spending lots of money, thinking they're going to play and play really well, and a coach is going to come and sign them up and say, look, I'm going to give you $5,000 a month. And I think there are some tournaments that do that around Europe, around the world, but I don't want my tournament to be seen as that. My tournament is a fundraising event with international teams.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to have that misconception, but it's a fantastic event. As I said, it's in Hastings, right down in sunny Sussex, and the players that come down from the States, they love it because they're down by the sea. They finish the games, they go down by the sea, they see, it's going to the seaside, and then they can jump on the train going to London. It's just a fun, friendly event. And what I really like about it is how all the guys make friends. They all make friends. I look on social media sometimes and I see guys who have really made good friends on the back of the tournament. Um, and that's, then they're smiling. I look at the photos sometimes, little back, and the guys are smiling and having fun. And that's what it's all about as well. Knowing that if I hadn't had this kidney transplant, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what brings it full circle for me, that I've had the kidney transplant. These guys are at an international tournament, that my wife and I have come up with the idea of. And I've got a fantastic team of volunteers who get involved. I couldn't do it without the volunteers. It's just fun, and it's my way of giving back. And I think, I know it sounds a bit corny and a bit of a cliche. I think that's probably why I had to have the kidney transplant. Sometimes things happen for a reason, and I think that's probably my reason, to give something back. That's I just think, it's my obligation to do that, and I've made so many friends through it as well. So many friends I'm gonna know for for a lifetime. But going back to your earlier question, there's some top players who playing in top leagues around the world. They come and play in the tournament, and they go off back to the States or back to Europe, and they're playing in top leagues all around in England and in Italy and France and what have you. Obviously, last year it got postponed because of COVID, called off. This year, I think it's going to get cancelled again. But we have to see what Basketball England, what they're going to have, because every year I get more and more teams contacting me earlier and earlier. So we'll have to see. I've got teams from Tobago and India and America again, just saying, "Are you having a tournament?" But it depends on Basketball England, because they've only said that elite sports can be played at the moment.
That brings on nicely to our listener questions. I tweeted, Instagram, Facebook yesterday before we recorded. I'll do this for every episode, so if you do want to get involved and ask you questions, follow the Transplant Take on Sport social media pages. We're on Facebook at Transplant Take on Sport Pod. Instagram is at Transplant Take on Sport Pod, and Twitter is at TTOS Pod. So if you follow that, there'll be a post the day before I record, and you can ask any questions you like. So we had a few come in for you, Eric.
Yep, sounds good.
We had one you've pretty much answered. Jamal from the Cobras says, "Are we really going to have the tournament in 2021?" Which I think you've answered, and we don't know.
That Jamal is the guy from he is from the New York City Cobras, and he emailed me the other day, actually, bless him. And we don't know. I emailed him and said, "Look, Jamal, until Basketball England let us know, we won't know. Hopefully they'll let us know soon." But yeah, that's Jamal Hines from New York City Cobras, and his cousin plays for Leicester Riders, who are in the BBLs, which is fantastic. I would love to have them over here and playing. So fingers crossed on that
Fingers
one.
crossed it goes ahead.
Yes.
Another one from Tara. Do you think it inspires your team that you've overcome so much?
I hope so. I think it does. Because they've seen. I think when I used to sort of coach them, and so when I used to go to games all the way across Sussex, they were always really appreciative of it. I think it does. And recently, the recognition I've got, I think I won. I think a Sussex Sports Award, whenever it was 2018, Volunteer of the Year, which was really fantastic. And a lot of the guys did, send me messages and say well deserved, so that was, I think, doing that did inspire them. And a lot of the guys played in my tournaments. They've always played, in the WCBT, and they used to come up to me after the game, and they, want photos with me, and they thanked me for it as well. So I think they are inspired that I've come through, what I've come through. Yeah, so I think they are definitely inspired.
Yeah.
I hope so.
How did it feel at your first tournament?
The first tournament, I must admit, it was very daunting. It was very busy and very manic. And to be honest, I didn't really enjoy it until afterwards, because you're just doing so much. You're making sure the teams arrive on time, because I had a team drop out the day before. It was maybe 8 teams, and the team dropped out about sort of 4 o'clock the night before. So it was normally two groups of 8. two groups of four, sorry, and his team dropped out, and I was trying to get another team in, which fortunately I did. And I was thinking, oh, please let them turn up, please let them turn up. And, they thought they did, but it's just you don't really enjoy it because you're too busy.
Yeah.
But the very first tournament, which was really good because my twin brother came over from Canada with his family, and his son played. My twin brother's son played in it for the Bexhill Giants team with my eldest son. So it was my twin brother's youngest, and my eldest playing in the same team, and they won the B tournament, which was really, really good. So that was really good, seeing that my nephew and my son playing together. But it didn't really until I got home. We got home, my wife and I. We got home. We sat down. We put all the bags down, and we sat down. And then that's when you can relax and enjoy it. But at the time, it's like, what have I done? The first tournament was, really, what have I done? Because teams from everywhere and minibuses not turning up to collect teams and food running out and what have you, and you're trying to sort of trying to organise so many different things. And my twin brother thought he'd been very, very helpful. He kept on bringing people over to me, going, Eric, this lady wants to know where this is, and this lady wants to know where this is. And he said, Eric, this lady wants to talk to you. And this young girl went, the referees are rubbish. Where did you get these referees? I said, Tim, why have you brought this woman over to me to complain? What are you doing? But yeah, the first tournament was a very steep learning curve, and I learned a lot from that very first one. Yeah, but it was fun afterwards.
And if people want to find out more, where can they find the World Club Basketball Tournament?
We have a website, www.worldclubbasketballtournament.com. We're on Instagram, World Club Basketball Tournament. We're on Twitter, World Club Basketball Tournament on Twitter, and also the Bexhill Giants. We've got a Twitter page as well, and Facebook. You can find us on World Club Basketball Tournament. I think one thing I sort of missed out as well. What we've done, what we did last year, because of the success of the event, we had some events out in America. Had one out in Washington, and before COVID hit, we were going to have events in Denver, Las Vegas. No, we had one in Las Vegas. So we had one in Las Vegas and one in Washington. And the one in Washington had a team from Japan come over. So we branched out into different countries, which is really, really good, which wasn't initially an intention. But because of the success, people said, look, you've got an international tournament because no one else in the UK does it. And because I've got the connections with teams all around the world as such now, in the USA they did it, and in Las Vegas and Washington, and we were going to do one in Omaha, and we were going to do another one in Denver, but then COVID hit, and that scuppered our plans a little bit.
It's throwing everything out, isn't it?
Yeah.
Am I right in thinking that you do more fundraising and awareness events with the Bexhill Giants?
Not anymore. I used to do the 3-on-3 events. I did some 3-on-3 basketball events with the Bexhill Giants back in the day, but the Bexhill Giants we haven't. We stopped playing now because it's taken too much of my time because it was down in Sussex and I'm up in London now. So what I tend to do with my time now, I do more fundraising stuff at my company. I work for Direct Line Insurance, so we do a lot of fundraising through Direct Line. Which is quite good, and through various magazines and what have you. But yeah, my company Direct Line are very, very good with supporting the fundraising events. Yeah, the Bexhill Giants, that's gone a bit down the wayside. We just do exhibition games now. I do fundraising stuff with Direct Line Insurance. We do. Well, when we were in the office, dress down days. Before we stopped doing dress down, people would come in on dress down days and put £1 in a bucket and stuff like that. We used to raise thousands on that. Yeah, and quizzes, we did quiz nights and what have you. But yeah, those days are a little bit gone now.
Hopefully they come back again soon and
Yeah.
raise more money for various kidney charities that are out there. Eric, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you very much.
I've said this every week. I learn a lot from every guest. It's quite therapeutic in a way.
It is. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is. Yeah, because I don't think I don't think I share my story enough. I think people like to hear it. So I appreciate the time that you've given me. So people are going to hear this story and the other stories as well. I think that's great. I think that's great what you're doing, Lewis.
Thank you. A couple more questions before we go.
Yep.
Would you say you've got a proudest sporting moment?
Proudest sporting moment. One, I can probably chuck in one, two. Sorry, one is setting up the World Club Basketball Tournament.
Of course.
Because we won awards now as well. We won quite a few awards. As I said, I won Sussex Sports Awards, and been nominated loads of times for it as well. Got to the finals again, which wasn't the intention, but to get that recognition from people outside of your sport is great. So yeah, winning certain awards, and just setting up the World Club Basketball Tournament, which I said is the only international tournament in the UK. And sometimes I have to sit back and think, hold on a minute, it's surely there's got to be another one. And I've researched it and I've looked, and there aren't any other international events. And so that is something proud I can be, is unique. I can be proud of. And as I said, it's not just basketball; it is raising awareness and telling people my story. That's something I'm very, very proud of.
I agree. Something you can be really proud of, and long may it continue, and
Thank you very
raising
much.
more awareness for organ transplants, kidney charities.
Yeah, we especially need it now, definitely.
Absolutely. And final one, I ask this every week. What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone facing a transplant?
Good question. Research. I would say research. I don't think I researched it enough to find out what the before and after was going to be like. So initially researched it to get a clearer understanding. And so, as I mentioned earlier on, when the doctor kept saying to me, "You're going to need a kidney transplant," he didn't really articulate why. He just kept saying, "You're going to need a kidney transplant and you're losing protein." So I think ask questions of your doctors to find out what it actually means, and do as much research as you can to fully understand what will happen before, during, and after. And also, I would say, join as many sort of groups as you can, where people have, whether it's Facebook groups or what have you, where people are having conversations, and you can join in those conversations.
I agree. I'm in the Young Adult Kidney Group, cricket team, local transplant games, team groups. So as many as you can, and there's various groups out there you can join. I linked to in the previous episode. I linked to donor group. So if anyone is a living donor, I'll bring it back to that. You can go and join that. Link up with other people and hear their stories. Eric, it's been a joy to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Your story is inspiring. I think you did a great job with the World Club Basketball Tournament, and I'd love to come down one day, see what it's all about, get involved.
Yeah, hopefully, can't say it this year, but hopefully next year, we'll get it all going. And then you're more than welcome to come down and enjoy the weekend. Weekend.
There we go. Thanks to my guest today, Eric Douglin. If you're enjoying the podcast, then please make sure you tell your friends, your family, tell them you enjoyed it, get them involved. Hopefully we can build something up here. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, it's the most used app to listen to the podcast. It'd mean a massive amount to me if you could rate it 5 stars on the show page on there. It just helps boost it, and it really does make the podcast reach more people, help more people see it. Hopefully we can bring people together, share their stories, and we can all come together through transplants and sport. If you don't believe me, then I said last week I'd read the reviews that have come through. So I've had one from Tasmeister who says, "What a fantastic podcast. Lewis is a brilliant presenter and has interviewed a range of guests, all with unique and eye-opening stories. If you're a patient, family member, interested in sport, or just want to know a little bit more about life in the kidney world, this is definitely a good one. Thank you for that." I will say that I know everyone who's been on so far has been kidney related. I am looking for guests who've had other transplants as well. So if you've had a heart, lungs, liver, pancreas, corneas, bone marrow, stem cells, please do get in touch by either social media, which I've mentioned before. Instagram and Facebook is at Transplants Take on Sport Pod, and Twitter is at TTOS Pod. Or you can email transplanttakeonsport@gmail.com. If you'd like to be a guest, if you've got a story to tell, you're into sport, please feel free to get in touch. I read the comments on social media. I read all the messages that come in. I read the emails. So please don't hesitate. Another review we've had from Village Cricketer says, "Excellent insight into life after transplant. Excellent podcast, Lewis. Look forward to listening every week. Whether you're into sport or not, download and subscribe to learn something new about transplant life every episode, and you might like a new sport afterwards. I'm learning about new sports every time, so if you know someone who wants to learn more about new sports or transplants, or they've had a transplant and they want to learn more about sport, please tell them, and tell them where the podcast is, Transplant's Take on Sport, available on all major podcast providers. That's it for today. I've been Lewis Daniels, and you've been listening to Transplant's Take on Sport.